Hi everybody, I'm going to be showing you today how you create a graph using Logger Pro and how you can put in a line of best fit, which will then give you the slope and y-intercept. So the first thing that you want to do is click Search Web and Windows, and from there you want to type in Logger Pro. So you should have already installed Logger Pro at this time. If you don't have it installed, you will need to make sure to do so prior to watching this video and putting in your data. So once you click that button, it's going to come up with a pretty basic grid here, as well as data entry on this side. So what you're going to need to do is drag this out a little bit more. What you want to do then is right click. So you want to right click on your computer and you want to, let's see, how do we do this again? You want to go to data. So up at the top, you want to go to data and new data set, and that will bring up data set 2. So you have two data sets for both materials that you have, and you have two columns within that data set, the X and the Y parts of your graph. So if you remember from when you made your graph by hand, the X axis was volume and the Y was mass. So what we're going to do is try to figure out how we're going to rename these just to make sure that we have it set up. So what you have to do, sorry, I just had to remember myself. You go to column options. So you're right clicking here in the X, go to column options and data set X. From there, you want it to be volume. And the units are centimeters cubed. So if you go to superscript cubed, there it'll be. Okay. You want to do the same thing for mass. This will just help us in the long run for when we go ahead and have to put in that data. Once we have everything labeled, it makes it a little bit easier to try to put stuff in and you don't get as confused. Because if you put data in the wrong place, it's going to mess up your graph and it just gets confusing. So that just takes a couple seconds. Okay, so once you have that done, start entering in your data. Just type it in on the computer. So I've come up with some fake data. I made this up. In no way is this accurate. So I don't want you to think like, oh my gosh, where is she getting these numbers from? I literally made this up like right before I made this video. So I'm just going to go ahead and start entering in this data. So the data that you collected in the lab is what you would put in here. Sorry, it's like this awkward silence, but I want to make sure I type this in right. So you'll notice once I got this complete data set here for the first material, you'll notice that the dots started showing up on my graph. So I want to do the same thing for data set 2, but they aren't going to show up quite like data set 1 did. We're going to have to put that in manually. So I'll show you how you fix that setting. And please make sure when you turn in your graph, you're not using these exact same numbers. That's cheating. It should be your numbers that you're using. So if you're watching this video and completing your graph at the same time, make sure you're typing in your numbers. So if we look here, we only have one data set shown. So what we need to do is go to Insert and go to, actually no, I want to right click this and go to Graph Options. From there, I want to go to Axes Options. So right now you can see that data set 1 has mass selected. We want to do the same thing for data set 2. Okay. So I click that and now you'll see data set 1 are these circular symbols and data set 2 are the red squares. So for data set 1, for the mass, we want to click this button up here where it has R equals. This is what we call linear fit. We want to have it selected for both data set 1 and data set 2. And it's going to intersect, it's going to put in that line of best fit for us. So we don't have to worry about drawing it in by hand. And it gives us information about this line equation. So the equation y equals mx plus b is always the equation for a line, m being the slope, which it gives it to us with the correct unit. So that's how you know that you set up your graph correctly. It also gives us the y-intercept. So here you can see by using this graphing program, we've already calculated the slope, which is the density. So the density for data set 1 is going to be 2.89, whereas the density for data set 2 is going to be 2.16. So the last final thing we want to do is click on the graph and go to graph options again and just give it a title for the overall graph. So we might want to do this as densities for 2 objects. You could title it graphing mass versus volume, anything like that, and put that there. It'll put the title at the top. You'll notice that's already there. When you're ready to go print, you want to print graph and data table. So if you click print here, you want to make sure that both are printed out. So it'll print out both if you just go to the regular print. If you just want the data table printed, you go to print data table. If you just want the graph, go to graph. In this case, you can probably just print the graph, but you always want to make sure that you put your name at the bottom here, mostly because everyone's graph is going to look the same as they're coming off the printer. So you want to put Mrs. Gaynor here and make sure you click OK. Print it to whichever room. So my room is 221. Click OK, and it'll print out the graph for you. So that's how you use Logger Pro. If you're not quite sure how to do this, watch the video again and then go ahead and ask your instructor for help, but make sure that you have this completed for your lab.